All right, so thank you everyone so much for joining. It is now 9 o'clock Pacific time, so let's go ahead and get started. What did you think the answer was? Which of these advances in science happened before the creation of the first limbs and Excel? All of the above. So all of these incredible advances in science occurred before the first version of LIMS came out in 1981 and when Excel came out in 1984. Since then, we've made huge leaps and bounds with the age of technology to further streamline our research and understanding of the world. Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for joining today. I'm Lance, a product specialist here at LabKey, and I'm excited to talk to you about transforming how biobanks and research teams manage biospecimens, from spreadsheets to centralized, scalable systems to help reduce the risk and improve data quality. Before LabKey, I worked as a lab tech for organ and tissue donation, and I've worked on everything from paper records to spreadsheets to homegrown limbs to commercial limbs, so I'm really familiar with a lot of the pros and cons of all of these systems. And whether you're a biobank or academic research group or supporting a multi-site network, today's session will give you actionable insight into modernizing your sample management approach. So biobanking is evolving rapidly, and with our clients all around the globe, we're seeing a massive increase in biospecimen volume driven by advances in genomics and personalized medicine and longitudinal studies. The data complexity is also rising, with each sample now linked to patient metadata, results for different tests, regulatory documentation, and so much more. There's also growing pressure for compliance, traceability, and reproducibility, and regulatory standards like HIPAA, GDPR, and ISO aren't just checkboxes, they're essential for trust, funding, and publication. And with this, we're also seeing that being able to search for and export data is vital. Lab techs need to be able to carry out complex queries to find samples that came from all of their patients with a specific diagnosis. They need to search for all of their samples available in a specific freezer or find all of their parent samples that have a certain amount of aliquots. These scientists need to be able to do these searches in a matter of seconds and not just the tens of minutes or hours or days that it takes to search across a series of spreadsheets or outdated software. And I've been in this situation, it's not fun, so making sure you have that ability is vital. And with this increase in volume, data complexity, and needs for compliance, we're finding more and more that these spreadsheets and antiquated systems are no longer enough. Many biobanks are still relying on these spreadsheets or even paper records, and while that may have worked in the past, it just doesn't scale. And a lot of these common pain points include version control issues. You don't always know which file is current. This leads to a lack of real-time visibility. You can't see or know for sure what's in your inventory across your different labs or locations. And the information is also often missing, outdated, or really hard to find. The data is also siloed. A lot of these files are living on individual machines or shared drives that not everyone has access to. This makes collaboration very difficult. Labs working in silos will often duplicate or lose critical context, and this can increase the cost and time needed to perform simple tasks. Audit risks are also a major factor of what's going on with these spreadsheets. You'll have missing timestamps, you won't have a chain of custody, and there's no immutable logs. This leads to a lot of compliance concerns or a complete inability to be compliant in the first place. Without audit trails or sample lineage, it's hard to pass any inspections that you may have. And it also poses a really high risk when something goes wrong because it makes investigating results that are incorrect or finding where a missing sample is a lot more difficult if you don't know the full life history of a sample. And what might be the most terrifying are errors and data overwrites. With no real-time validation, mistakes are really easy and costly. This will inevitably result in human error and data loss. A simple deletion or typo can cause massive downstream issues, such as the wrong results being attached to a specific sample or a specific patient. You're running the wrong tests or pulling the wrong samples. If something like this happens, especially in a biobank related to something like organ and tissue donation, it can have devastating results such as disease transmission or death. So what is the alternative? A centralized sample management system like LabKey Sample Manager provides a unified platform for your teams. It includes real-time inventory and tracking and control, automated location mapping from freezer to rack to box to tube, a chain of custody and sample history logging, barcode scanning, quality control checks, and seamless integrations with LIMS, ELNs, and clinical databases. So here in this kind of video, you saw how we could track the lineage of a lot of these samples. These are the different test results for specific samples, so you know how it's all kind of related to one another. And then we'll also be going into the actual inventory of where everything's located. So I can see this box map. I know exactly where my samples are located and every other sample that's located in that box. So I can very quickly get that information and share it with whoever may need it. All of this for a centralized sample management system can be cloud-based, secure, and fully auditable. So now that we kind of see the very basics of what a centralized system includes, let's talk about the real-world benefits for your team. We're going to be increasing efficiency with that automated sample intake, labeling, and inventory updates. You can then reduce the time that's spent tracking down sample locations or correcting data. You'll improve your data integrity by eliminating those version control issues. You'll know that the data is up to date and accurate. You can also prevent errors with real-time validation and controlled vocabularies like drop-down options. You'll have end-to-end traceability, so you can track every sample's life cycle if it's available, if it's testing, if it's been consumed. You can also include custody, who has that sample right now, who's checked it out of the freezer, who's added a sample to those freezers. You can look at those locations of where they're stored, where they've been moving around, and their testing history. With all of this, you can generate detailed audit trails for compliance and quality assurance, which kind of leads into you'll have an easier time with supporting your compliance. These systems will have built-in tools to support HIPAA, GDPR, and ISO standards, and this can help you maintain a defensible, transparent record for every sample and action taken. You'll also have better collaboration across your teams and sites. Everyone will have central access to consistent data, so there won't be any email chains asking where a sample is, who's done what with it. And then you'll also eliminate those siloed spreadsheets. It's all going to be in one place, and the information is right there. You can also assign role-based permissions to allow secure, controlled access for different users. You can have power admins who control everything. You can have sample editors that allow creating and modifying samples, and readers who can only view the data but not make any changes. This will also help to reduce your IT burden. And a cloud environment with full support means that your IT team won't be tied up with maintenance and troubleshooting and fixing broken relationships or broken bugs. It's all going to be right there. The system should also be scalable and future-proof. Whether you're managing hundreds of samples or hundreds of thousands, the system will scale with you. You can easily adapt it to a multi-lab or multi-site operations as your needs grow, or as your labs at your more labs at your university want to join. And with Sample Manager, you can also integrate with other systems. This is really useful if you have like a certain reporting agency, you want to capture patient data from a specific software, or even want to export your sample data to an online portal to sell any samples you may have, which is becoming more and more common as we have more needs for funding. So let me know what your highest priority is. Is it something that we've discussed here or somewhere else? I'm going to go ahead and launch a poll. So you can go ahead and just let me know which options you think are going to be the most important to you. Or just, of course, let me know in the chat. I'm going to go ahead and take a quick coffee break while you all kind of answer that poll. And then we can kind of chat a bit more. So I'm definitely seeing a lot of improved data integrity, traceability, increased efficiency, and reduced IT burden. These are also really important to me when I was working in the lab. When I was in the lab, increasing that efficiency and data integrity was fantastic, going from spreadsheets, to an actual LIMS. And it helps take what takes hours, if not days or months, to really a matter of minutes. I could also feel a lot more confident that I was actually looking at the right sample and the right information because I wasn't struggling to try to make sense of someone's random answer when they were typing in free text or someone's horrible handwriting. 'Cause, doctors don't typically have the best handwriting. Um, and with Excel, it's really easy to accidentally change information. So kind of working with these limbs is vital for having that increased data integrity as well. But I also worked in a homegrown LIMS, so reducing the IT burden was something that was really needed. When our system went offline for a couple of days, we were in really bad shape, and it really highlighted the need for our IT team to have support from an actual vendor. So when looking at those vendors, always ask, how do they help with that software maintenance? Do they do upgrades for you? Do they support and make sure that the system stays offline? How do they do that maintenance? Ask them, does it take a couple minutes, hours, days? And I think with LabKey, we actually do a really good job of providing very reliable service with our uptime for our software being online very, very high. And we make sure our upgrades and maintenance don't impact our clients. We work with our clients to make sure, like, are you going to be in the lab doing a lot of stuff when this happens? We try to schedule it outside of off hours, which is something I really wish we had when I was working in the lab. So yeah, it looks like definitely data integrity is the winner, but we do have traceability and reduced IT burden a second. So thank you so much for answering that poll. So we've kind of gone over the benefits and like why we kind of want to switch to a more modern system. So how do you make that switch? And it doesn't really have to be overwhelming if you have the right plan. Step one is that you want to really audit your current process. Where is your data stored? Is it across multiple spreadsheets in different software? You don't know where it is? That's pretty much the first step of understanding how you're going to make this switch. You need to ask what tools are in use, and then are there any gaps or inconsistencies? So are you using testing instrumentation that you want to integrate with the software? Do you just go from paper records to a spreadsheet? Kind of understand what that process looks like as well. And then you want to know what problems keep repeating. Are you having data loss, tracking issues? Is there limited access to that data? We've had one person tell us that because they didn't know where their samples were located, they were keeping their freezers open for long periods of time. And when they were doing that, their freezers actually died. Um, so this, of course, gets very costly, and getting a sample management software would actually save them money in terms of freezer pairs alone, not even including the amount of time that would be saved just by searching for those samples. So when you are auditing this process as well, you want to work with your team and help provide insight into which areas need improvements. You'll want to work with the lab techs or the end users that will be using the software every single day, not just the lab managers or the executive level staff that will sometimes be in it. By getting insight from the end users, they'll feel like they're really involved with this, that they're having their voices heard, and will likely be open to adopting a new system much more easier, or I guess more smoothly, because sometimes there is resistance if they're not involved. This can also help outpoint any issues that you may not have known about. So definitely make sure those end users are involved with that auditing process to make that implementation go smoother. Step two is that you'll want to define your goals and requirements. Are you focusing on compliance, inventory efficiency, reducing that IT workload? You'll want to know how many users and sites need access to this software. And then what types of data do you want to capture? Are there date specific fields? So I want to know my collection dates or when I'm centrifuging samples. Do you need to store files like PDF attachments or images? Do you have text fields that you need? Do you have a lot of different data fields, right? Some vendors, for whatever reason, will restrict the number of fields you use, so you'll always want to double check with that as well. And then ask yourself, what features are you wanting? Do you want to track sample storage, test results, an electronic lab notebook, API access, integrations, anything like that? And then ask yourself how much data is needing to be stored. How much space do you need in that cloud? For these requirements and goals, you'll want to rank them by how necessary they are. Are they must-haves or nice-to-haves? Most systems won't be a perfect fit, but most of your requirements should still be met. I would actually recommend writing down all of these goals and requirements and have a checklist for every single vendor you speak to and check off how well they fit those goals. You may even be able to send that list to your vendors so they can fill that checklist out for you and indicate how good of a match they are. The more you understand what your goals and requirements are needed, the better suited you will be for evaluating different systems. It'll also help you keep an eye out for these different features when you're doing those software demos or trials, and then you can ask them right then and there how they fit with it. Step three, and I think this is often the hardest step for everyone kind of going to a new system, is mapping and migrating your data. You'll want to compile all of your data into one location, whether it's a zip folder of a bunch of spreadsheets or a single spreadsheet itself. You'll want to understand your existing data structure and how it may need a change. Do you have data fields that you just keep around but aren't really needed? Do you need to capture additional data? Do you have a lot of different words for the same thing? For example, here it's I have a tiger top tube, but someone might call it an SST, and someone else might call it a serum separator tube. To make your data as queryable as possible, you'll want to limit that to just one option. So you're always calling it an SST. You can do this with like drop-down options instead of free text. So cleaning up your data in that way can be very useful. And then you'll want to prepare that data for importing. You'll want to clean up those fields. You'll want to validate your data, normalize those formats, and get it into a format the new software can read. Every software has slightly different requirements for importing historical data. Sometimes you have to do it manually. Other times you can import those spreadsheets. So you just want to double check and make sure it's in that right format. And that is probably what is the hardest part. But you don't have to do that step alone. In fact, if you can get all of your data into one location, like a zip file of spreadsheets or just one spreadsheet, here at LabKey, we'll do this step for you. We do this every single day for our clients, and this helps outline the steps we typically follow for our new clients. Step one will have you send us your requirements and whatever you may have for your data. This is usually in the form of a data structure spreadsheet that we actually provide for our clients so they can fill out exactly what they want for their samples, for their patients, for their tests, or they'll just send us their historical data and we can work off of that as well. Once we have a brief chance to review what you've sent us, we'll schedule a sample management kickoff meeting, and this really helps us ask clarifying questions and understand your priorities and deadlines. We'll also do a basic training so you can help become more familiar with the system. And then we start cleaning up your data. Uh, the step one from kind of sending us your requirements to having that kickoff meeting is usually within a couple of days, or kind of whatever works best for you. When we're cleaning up that data, this typically takes a couple of weeks. We'll clean it up based off of the input you've given us and with our expertise. We'll clean up typos, standardize that language, and make sure that it's in a format that Sample Manager can read. And once everything's ready, we'll import it into our own separate server, and then we'll schedule another meeting to kind of review it. So that step four, we walk through that data, show how we structured it in Sample Manager. We'll make any changes that are needed pretty much right then and there. And then once you're happy with it, we'll export that and import it to your own cloud. That way that audit log's pretty clean from any changes that we've had made. And then we'll do specific training for that structure, make sure everyone's kind of set up from there. So this whole process takes about 4 to 6 weeks, depending on how much data we need to work with and kind of what your priorities are. Um, Other vendors takes months, if not years. So this is where we really focus on making that hardest step as easy as possible for you all. Then once everything's migrated over, you're going to train and go live. This is probably the most exciting step for everyone because you're right then and there. You're going to be using that system and hopefully we're going to be increasing that data integrity and increasing that efficiency. So for this step, you'll want to assign power users or admins. These have access to changing data structures, adding more users. You'll also want to assign lower level roles like sample editors or storage editors. Some folks will opt to use a sandbox environment to test before a full rollout. This is usually useful for organizations with very complex workflows and want a separate training server. Other times, folks will set up training sample types to use, and this kind of makes it very apparent that this is fake data in their audit logs. So if you're going back through, you'll be like, oh, this was our fake sample type. It's not real data. This was just when we were training. With that, it's kind of related to ensuring that your teams are trained and fully confident. With LabKey, we help to ensure all users are fully trained, and we do this with group training sessions, one-on-one training sessions, providing video tutorials and documentation. We want to make sure that everyone is fully confident in the system so that they have the greatest levels of success. We should have linked a comment. Yep, so it looks like we have Exploring Sample Manager in the chat. So this is a great tool. It kind of lays out all of the different features of our software with all those video tutorials. We use this a lot for training, but it's also great for evaluating the software to make sure that it works best for you. So we like to be as transparent as possible about what to expect with our software. With that, it kind of does lead to what we linked in the chat leads to an example of a centralized sample management system. And of course, we want to point to our own product, Sample Manager. Sample Manager is a great introductory tool to help make the switch from spreadsheets and other systems. And then with that, people use it, they have a lot of benefit from it, and it becomes a day-to-day necessity for them. We have low introductory rates for our single users all the way to multi-site labs. So we really want to make sure that we're supporting labs of every size. We also have different products and different tiers of software to make sure that you're paying for what you actually need. With Sample Manager Starter, you can track your inventory, how much you have, where it's located, where it is in its life cycle. You can track more detailed information on your participants or patients, your samples, and those samples aliquots. From there, you can see the lineage of how everything is related to each other. When that data is in, we have a very powerful tool to have a searchable sample repository. And of course, we have a full audit trail to help support your compliance and ensure you don't lose your samples. With Sample Manager Professional, you'll get everything in Starter, plus assay data to manage your test results, advanced column functionality to help support validating data, calculating expiration dates, and so much more. We also have workflow management to track tasks when they're assigned and help users understand which samples they should use. We have data partitioning through folders to make that sensitive information a bit more secure. We also allow you to integrate with other systems with our API to connect to things like AminoChain or RedCap. Then we also have an electronic lab notebook to support electronic signatures, capturing experimental notes, or replacing paper records. And if you start with one tier, it's super easy to upgrade as your needs grow. We also have software like LabKey Limbs and SDMS to fully support even more advanced functionality. So if you'd like, we can definitely explore Sample Manager further. We do offer free trials to really make sure that the system works best for you. We want you to explore that software. We also offer personalized demos so we can chat one-on-one about what your needs are and how we may be able to best fit your requirements. So make sure you bring that requirement list to us and we'd be able to help with that. And of course, as always, feel free to contact us for implementation questions, technical support, and whatnot. I have my email here, lancel@labkey.com. We do offer discounted pricing for multi-site deployments and full customer support to help your transition go more smoothly at no additional cost. So with that, I want to thank you all so much for joining. I'd love to open the floor to some questions, so please feel free to drop them either in the chat or the Q&A. And while you're asking your questions, I do want to review just some key takeaways from today's webinar. Firstly, spreadsheets are no longer sustainable. We see labs wanting to future-proof their biobanks to ensure they can handle the increasing volume and data complexity of their samples. Second, when labs upgrade to a centralized sample management system, we're seeing that it's driving their efficiency and their compliance and their data integrity, and this helps them save both time and money. Third, a smooth switch starts with the right strategy and plan. Make sure you include everyone that will be using the system and document what your requirements are. It can be overwhelming, but you don't have to do this alone. And that leads to the last point of finding the right vendor to help you. Our clients have called us lifesavers, and the best support they've ever seen from a vendor that they've partnered with, whether it's software or supply distribution. And we really want to make this process as easy as possible for our clients so you can focus on what really matters, and that's the science of your biobank. So thank you all again for joining us. I'll go ahead and answer some questions. And of course, keep asking them and we'll kind of go from there. And then I'm just going to go to the next slide so you have my contact information up on screen. All right. Let me go back to that. Okay. And I'll go ahead and pull up that Q&A. Right. So some folks do ask us kind of what IT requirements do they have for kind of a sample management system. And of course, that can differ depending on which software you're going with. So I'm just going to speak about Sample Manager itself. Our software is cloud-based, so we take care of the maintenance, the security, the upgrades. So you really don't need to have an IT team on your own. It can just be your lab and we'll take care of that IT support for you. Um, we do have monthly upgrades with our system to make sure that we're staying up to date with any security issues, all the maintenance, and then of course, what's probably really exciting for people are new features. We want to make sure our system doesn't outdate and you're getting the most use out of it. And then I'll go ahead and answer other questions that may be up. I'll kind of jump back and forth so y'all can kind of see the key points in case you need that. And then some people asked, how do you support training and onboarding? So we do step-by-step onboarding support, as we kind of saw from one of those previous slides. This includes kickoff calls, data review sessions, and personalized training for your users. We make sure that you'll have access to user guides, video tutorials, and our dedicated support. Um, and really, we try to offer a variety because everyone learns a little bit differently. Some people do work better in those group settings, others do one-on-one calls. So for one of our clients, every end user had their own meeting set up with me as I kind of trained each user individually. So we really want to make sure that everyone has that support. Um, we had another question. It looks like for setting up those lists of requirements, is there a specific kind of form that they should fill out? So this definitely kind of differs on each organization. One thing they'll do, they kind of divide them into subtopics of like, this is our data integrity, this is our IT specs, these are our sample requirements. This kind of just helps them organize their thoughts a bit better to really fully explore each subject individually. And then they'll have questions underneath those subtopics. So I guess one example would be like, for IT support, is this a cloud-based system? And then kind of next to that, they'll indicate either a number of how important it is, the 10 being the most important, one being least important, or they'll just say must have or like nice to have. Um, then they'll have like a checkbox of yes, no, other, whatever answers kind of make sense. And then they allow comments for the vendor to kind of explain their answer. So that's always kind of what we see when people are sending us those kind of detailed information. And then it looks like how long does it take to transition from spreadsheets to sample manager? When do people see kind of the benefit of the software? So that is a great question. Usually for our clients, we are seeing that teams are up and running within 4 to 6 weeks. This includes data mapping, configuration, onboarding, and training. Right after that, we actually have clients seeing that full benefit almost immediately. A lot of our clients say that we're going to start small so we can just get our data imported and then we'll upgrade in maybe like a year or two once we're fully onboarded. They think it's going to take a year or two, but we see within weeks or months that they're within like a couple months that they're upgrading. So it's a very fast turnaround for kind of seeing that value. All right. Any other questions? Of course, please feel free to drop them in the chat. Thank you all so much for kind of joining us today. I really appreciate it. And then, of course, always more than happy to kind of speak with all of you one-on-one. So I'll kind of just end with the slide that has my contact information so you'll have it. And then we'll go ahead and end this webinar in just a couple minutes. But thank you so much for joining. Have a great rest of your day.